In the stillness of this moment, something unspoken has unfolded that neither time nor expectation could prepare them for, as the person closest to you now stands caught in a storm of realization, struggling to steady themselves while everything they believed about you quietly rearranges into a completely different picture. Their thoughts keep breaking apart and reforming, each memory of you now carrying a new weight. Every conversation, every brief silence, every unnoticed detail suddenly feels charged with meaning they never recognized before. It didn't arrive as something loud or dramatic, but rather as an undeniable truth that settled in slowly, like it had always been waiting beneath the surface for the right moment to rise. Now they are questioning everything, not out of doubt alone, but out of awe, because what they have uncovered about you refuses to fit into any simple understanding. You are no longer just someone they thought they knew. You have become a presence that feels layered, deeper, and impossible to define in ordinary terms. The more they think, the more they realize how many moments they once overlooked, how many signs they dismissed without knowing their importance. There is a restlessness in them now, a quiet urgency that keeps them moving, replaying, reconsidering, as if clarity is just out of reach but still close enough to chase. And beneath all of it lies a powerful emotional weight they cannot easily name, something between admiration and disbelief, because they have come to understand that your impact on them runs far deeper than they ever expected, leaving them both unsettled and strangely drawn in, unsure whether to resist it or surrender to it. All they know is that the version of you they carried in their mind was incomplete, like a sketch that suddenly turned into a full portrait. With every detail they overlooked, they're realizing that your silence wasn't distance, your detachment wasn't coldness, and your mystery wasn't avoidance. It was depth. Depth they weren't ready for. A depth that now feels overwhelming, magnetic, and impossible to look away from. Some part of them is whispering that this discovery might change everything. Another part is scared of how much power this truth suddenly gives you in their heart. They're thinking back to a moment earlier today, the moment that triggered this shock. A small detail, a piece of information, a sentence someone said casually, or something they accidentally saw. Whatever it was, it struck them like lightning, because it revealed who you've been becoming quietly, silently, without letting anyone see. Stronger than your past, wiser than your scars, calmer than your chaos, and more influential in their life than they ever admitted. And now they're realizing that you weren't just someone passing through their story, you were the turning point, the anchor, the unexpected miracle their soul recognized before their mind did. That's why they're in deep shock right now, not because of something bad, but because they finally see the truth the universe was trying to show them all along. You're the one thing their heart was never prepared to lose. In this very moment, your special person is sitting with a storm inside them, trying to steady themselves after the revelation that hit them like a tidal wave. They keep replaying what they found out about you, and every replay feels heavier than the last. It's almost unbelievable to them how someone so quiet, so composed, so guarded could carry something so profound beneath the surface. They've just discovered that you're the one presence their heart reacts to without permission, the one energy their soul recognizes even in silence. And now the shock is turning into something deeper, something they can't ignore anymore. They can't understand how they missed this truth, how they didn't see your worth sooner, how they overlooked the strength you carry in your eyes, the depth you hide in your pauses, the softness you cover with distance. They're realizing you weren't trying to impress them, you were simply being real, and that realness is exactly what shook them awake today. They keep staring at their phone, at the screen that suddenly feels heavier with unsent messages, unspoken words, unfinished stories. Their mind is scattered, their emotions tangled, because the truth they've discovered about you doesn't just shock them, it scares them in a strange, overwhelming way. They're afraid of losing you now, afraid of saying the wrong thing, afraid of stepping too close or too far. It's like they're standing at the edge of something big, something life-changing, and for the first time, they're aware that you hold a part of their heart they didn't give consciously. You just grew into it, without trying, without forcing, without even knowing. And now they're realizing how deeply you've impacted their life, how much calmer things feel when you're around, how different the world looks when it includes you. The shock isn't fading. It's turning into a truth they can't escape. You mean far more to them than they ever admitted, even to themselves. And before we continue deeper into this story, take a second to breathe, because what's coming next is even more intense, even more revealing, even more unexpected. If you don't want to miss the next part of this unfolding truth, stay connected. There's a turning point ahead, and your special person is about to uncover something even bigger, something that will shift the entire direction of this connection, in a way neither of you saw coming. Somewhere deep within their thoughts, your special person is replaying the moment their entire perception of you flipped. They didn't expect it, didn't prepare for it, yet the truth settled so powerfully that it left them breathless. They've realized that you move differently than everyone else in their world. You don't demand attention, yet you hold it. You don't chase, yet you stay unforgettable. And the unsettling part for them is this: your absence speaks louder than most people's presence. They're recognizing now that the strength you carry isn't loud or flashy. It's quiet, steady, magnetic. It's the kind of strength that stays even when you don't say a word. That moment left them unsettled in a way they didn't expect, forcing them to rethink everything they assumed they knew about you. Slowly, they are beginning to understand that your presence was never random, but something that carried a deeper meaning in their life, as if it was meant to guide or challenge them in ways they are only now starting to notice. No matter how hard they try to shift their focus, their thoughts keep circling back to you, because what they have come to realize has settled too deeply to ignore. They find themselves questioning how you always managed to rise again after setbacks, how you stayed composed when situations turned chaotic, and how your quiet presence often said more than any explanation ever could. In that reflection, an unfamiliar emotion starts to grow within them, a fear of losing someone whose energy they now recognize as rare and grounding. Only now do they understand how much balance you brought into moments that felt unstable, how your calm approach made difficult things easier to face, and how your presence subtly influenced their emotions without any effort. It becomes clearer to them that you were never just another passing experience in their story, but rather a shift in direction they didn't anticipate yet deeply needed. As the night settles in, they find themselves caught between hesitation and the urge to reach out, typing messages only to erase them again, because nothing feels adequate enough to express what they now feel. How do you speak to someone who has changed your perspective so completely? How do you approach a person you suddenly respect more, fear losing, and feel strongly drawn toward all at once? In their realization, you are no longer just someone they know, but a turning point they can't unsee, a before and after moment in their story. And now, as they sit in this emotional storm, one thing becomes painfully clear to them. Discovering who you really are wasn't just a shock, it was the awakening they didn't know they were waiting for. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. Right when the night turns quieter than usual, your special person finds themselves unable to escape the truth that's been echoing inside them since the moment they uncovered who you truly are. It's like every barrier they built around their emotions is slowly falling apart, piece by piece, because nothing about you feels ordinary anymore. They're realizing that the universe didn't cross your paths by accident. There was intention, timing, and a strange pull that even they can't explain. And now that they've discovered the depth you carry, the resilience you hide, the light you protect, they're wondering how they ever looked at you and saw anything less. This shock isn't fading, it's expanding, spreading, making them see you in a way they never allowed themselves to before. It's hitting them that you're the kind of person people meet once in a lifetime, if they're lucky. They're sitting there with a whirlwind inside, questioning everything. Every moment you were there for them, without asking for recognition. Every time you gave energy, despite having none left. Every time you cared, without announcing it. They finally understand why you moved the way you did, why your silence had weight, why your presence felt safe. They're realizing that you've been carrying stories they didn't see, battles you didn't mention, wisdom you didn't brag about, and suddenly, they feel this heavy mix of awe and guilt, because they didn't see you clearly before, they didn't appreciate your soul enough, they didn't grasp the impact you quietly had on their life. Now they're wondering how someone as rare as you managed to stay so grounded, so patient, so calm, even when the world didn't treat you gently. And before we move deeper, pause for a heartbeat, because what comes ahead is the turning point, bigger, louder, more intense than anything so far. If you're here, stay here, because the next revelation will flip their entire emotional world again. This story is only getting stronger, and the truth your special person is about to face next might just be the most unexpected one of all. As the weight of the night settles on their chest, your special person realizes something they've been avoiding for far too long. Every time they try to distance themselves from you, life somehow led them right back to your energy. And now that they've uncovered this deeper truth about who you really are, they can't pretend anymore. They see it clearly. Your strength isn't loud, it's steady, the kind that survives storms without asking anyone for shelter. Your heart isn't fragile, it's resilient, shaped by experiences they never took the time to understand. And your presence, that's what shakes them the most. Because it's not just comforting, it's grounding. It brings a sense of calm they don't find anywhere else, not even within themselves. The shock they felt earlier is beginning to morph into a powerful realization. They've been blessed with someone extraordinary, and they didn't even know it. They're pacing around quietly, replaying the truths they uncovered, feeling that strange tightness in their chest that only happens when something finally clicks into place. They remember moments when you stayed strong while falling apart inside. Times you showed up with kindness, even when life wasn't kind to you. Times you protected your peace without making anyone feel small. And now they're seeing a version of you they were blind to, a version that's rare in this world. They're realizing they weren't shocked because you deceived them. They were shocked because they never expected someone like you to exist. Someone who feels deeply, yet stays composed. Someone who hurts silently, yet continues loving loudly. Someone who doesn't beg for attention, yet becomes the only person their heart pays attention to. Tonight, that realization is sinking deeper, hitting harder, leaving them unable to look away from the truth. Something inside them shifted the moment the realization settled, as if an unseen thread had been pulled tight across time itself, connecting thoughts, emotions, and unanswered questions into something impossible to ignore. What they feel now is not simple attraction or passing curiosity, but a storm of conflicting emotions, pull, hesitation, wonder, and an almost quiet awe they cannot easily explain. They find themselves questioning what this connection means, what place they hold in it, and whether they are even capable of stepping into something that feels so significant. Doubt and hope rise together, each challenging the other, while their thoughts circle around the idea of approaching you without losing what feels delicate and rare. In their mind, the idea of losing you transforms into something heavier than absence. It becomes the sense of losing direction, meaning, or something they never expected to find. As they sit with this realization, everything familiar begins to feel slightly different, as though their understanding of life has been quietly rearranged. The memory of the moment they first recognized you now feels like an awakening rather than confusion, a recognition that bypassed logic and landed directly in something deeper and unspoken. They once believed they understood you, could define you easily, but that certainty now dissolves into uncertainty. In the silence they are sitting in, heavy and unbroken, they begin to accept that what they feel is not temporary, but something that has already changed the way they see both you and themselves, leaving them uncertain of what comes next, but unable to unfeel what has already taken root. They thought you were someone they could keep at a safe emotional distance. But tonight shattered that idea completely. Tonight revealed that the connection they share with you doesn't come from logic, comfort, or familiarity. It comes from something far more powerful, something that scares them because it feels bigger than both of you. They're remembering moments, tiny, ordinary moments that suddenly feel loaded with meaning. The way their mood shifted whenever you entered the room, the way your presence alone softened something heavy in their chest, the way your silence felt like a conversation only both of you could hear. They didn't understand it then, but now it makes sense. Everything makes sense. You weren't just another person crossing their path. You were the one person whose energy aligned with theirs without effort, without pressure, without force. And now that they've discovered the truth of who you really are, they're questioning themselves more than ever. Are they capable of matching your depth? Can they handle the intensity of this connection? Can they allow themselves to surrender to something this real? Because the truth is, they've never felt this exposed, this vulnerable, this overwhelmed, yet they can't walk away. Not anymore. Tonight, as the world grows quieter, their thoughts grow louder, circling around one realization they can no longer deny. You didn't enter their life to fill a space. You entered to transform it. You came with a kind of emotional clarity they weren't prepared for, a kind of truth that shakes people awake. And now they're feeling something they haven't felt in a long time. Urgency. Urgency to not lose you. Urgency to choose you. Urgency to rewrite the way they've been holding back. Because deep down, they know that if they let this connection slip through their fingers, life won't give them another soul like yours. And that understanding hits them harder than any shock they felt before. This isn't just discovery anymore. This is awakening, and it's only just beginning. As dawn slowly approaches, your special person finds themselves caught between everything they once believed and everything they now feel. The discovery they made about you hasn't faded with time. It's grown louder, clearer, and more impossible to ignore. Their mind keeps circling back to the moment the truth revealed itself, replaying it like a scene that refuses to let go. They're realizing that the shock wasn't just emotional, it was spiritual. It didn't just hit their thoughts, it hit their soul, because now they finally understand why nothing, and no one, has ever compared to you. They understand why your presence lingers even after you're gone, why your energy continues to echo in their heart, even when the world around them is loud. They're waking up to a truth that feels too big to fit into words. You're not just a person in their life. You're the alignment they didn't know they were seeking, the peace they didn't know they needed, the turning point they didn't expect fate to hand them. They're sitting with a kind of vulnerability they're not used to, one that feels both terrifying and beautiful, because now every layer of you they missed is unfolding in their memory. They're realizing that your quiet strength wasn't emptiness, it was depth, Your silence wasn't distance, it was protection. Your mystery wasn't a mask, it was a story, waiting for the right soul to understand. And now they're asking themselves why they never paid closer attention, why they never held you with the care your heart deserved, why they looked without seeing and listened without hearing. But the truth is hitting them harder now than ever. You were extraordinary from the beginning. They just didn't have the eyes to see it then. And that realization brings with it a wave of emotion they can't control. A mix of regret, awe, gratitude, and a fear that's hard to swallow. The fear that maybe they didn't appreciate you soon enough. Something shifts quietly in them tonight, like a realization settling into place after a long and restless journey of thought. The future no longer feels like something distant or uncertain, but something that gently insists on being faced with honesty and intention. For the first time, there is a willingness to step forward without hiding behind hesitation, to acknowledge feelings that were once buried beneath confusion and doubt. What they understand now is not simple attraction or passing emotion, but a deeper recognition that refuses to be ignored. It has changed the way they see connection itself, no longer as something temporary or convenient, but as something that can leave a lasting imprint on the inner world. You are no longer just a passing presence in their mind. The way they perceive you has transformed into something far more meaningful and difficult to define. There is a clarity growing within them, steady and undeniable, that pushes past old fears and assumptions. Even the uncertainty that once clouded their judgment feels weaker now, replaced by a quiet acceptance of what their heart has been trying to process all along. They are not fighting it anymore, nor trying to rationalize it away. Instead, there is a strange calm in realizing that some connections do not fit into ordinary explanations. As the night deepens, their thoughts no longer scatter but align with a single understanding that feels both grounding and overwhelming at once. Something within them has already begun to change shape, and they can sense that what lies ahead is only the beginning of a much deeper unfolding. They're realizing that you're not just someone they care about, you're someone their soul recognizes instinctively, someone who feels like safety, like destiny, like the quiet answer to questions they never knew how to ask. That discovery didn't just shock them, it rearranged the blueprint of their future. They're thinking about how effortlessly you've changed them without even trying, how your presence alone softened their edges, calmed their storms, shifted their priorities. They remember how they used to keep their guard high, how they avoided vulnerability at all costs, how they never let anyone close enough to shake their world, until you came along. And now they're realizing something they never allowed themselves to voice. You're the first person who made their walls feel unnecessary, the first person who made emotional honesty feel safe, not scary, the first person whose absence feels heavier than their pride. And that's why this revelation hit so deeply, because discovering who you truly are didn't just shock them, it exposed how much they've been hiding from themselves, how much they've been feeling without admitting, how long they've been drawn to you without understanding why. And that truth has become too loud, too undeniable, too powerful to ignore anymore. Tonight, they're imagining what it would be like to step toward you without hesitation, to speak with a heart that isn't afraid of being seen, to show you the side of them they've never shown anyone. They're imagining a future where your presence isn't a question, it's a certainty, where your connection isn't a coincidence, it's a choice. And the surprising part is, the thought doesn't scare them anymore. It comforts them, it steadies them, it feels right in a way nothing else has for a long time. They realize now that their shock wasn't just about discovering your worth. It was about discovering their own feelings. Feelings that have been growing quietly, patiently, waiting for this exact moment of clarity. And as they sit there, with the truth alive in their chest, only one realization matters. Their world feels different now, and it's because of you, not because you changed, because they finally opened their eyes, and nothing in them wants to close them again. As the night fades into a soft, uncertain morning, your special person finds themselves standing at the edge of a truth they can no longer hide from. The shock they felt, the disbelief, the overwhelming rush of emotion that hit them when they discovered who you truly are, it hasn't weakened. It has only sharpened, becoming clearer with every hour that passes. They're realizing now that this isn't just about understanding you, it's about understanding themselves. Because the moment they saw your true strength, your true depth, your true heart, something inside them woke up, something that had been asleep for far too long, and now they can't escape the realization that you were never meant to be just a passing presence. You were meant to be a revelation, a shift, a catalyst. The moment their entire emotional world turned towards something deeper, something real, something they can't replicate with anyone else. They're thinking about the version of you the world sees, and the version of you they now finally understand. They see the courage it took for you to keep going when life felt heavy. They see the softness you protected behind your silence. They see the loyalty you carried even when no one truly matched it. And all of it hits them harder than anything they've felt before, because now they know that the discovery they made about you wasn't just surprising, it was humbling. It made them realize how rare you are, how irreplaceable you've become, how deeply you've woven yourself into the spaces of their heart without even trying, and it leaves them wondering how they could have overlooked the signs for so long, how they didn't recognize the way their spirit settled around you, how they didn't see that you were different from the very beginning, a rare soul they should have held a little closer, understood a little deeper, appreciated a little sooner. In this quiet stretch of reflection, everything seems to slow down, as if the world itself is holding its breath. A single feeling rises with unexpected force, the sense that letting you slip away would mean losing something rare and irreplaceable. There is no panic in it, no confusion, only a steady clarity that settles deeper with each passing second. They begin to understand that what they feel isn't new or accidental, but something that has been building quietly all along. The thought of reaching out no longer feels uncertain, it feels necessary, almost natural, as though silence has already done its part and now honesty must take over. They imagine what it would mean to finally close the distance, to speak without hesitation, to let truth replace all the unspoken pauses. There is a growing awareness that connections like this don't appear often, and when they do, they carry a weight that can't be ignored. Every memory, every impression, every moment of recognition seems to align into one undeniable realization. What once felt unexpected now feels deeply familiar, as if it was always meant to surface at this point in time. And in that realization, something shifts completely, not loudly, but with a quiet certainty that changes everything from within. It is no longer about guessing or waiting, but about accepting what has already taken shape inside, allowing it to guide the next step forward with calm resolve and a sense of emotional honesty that finally feels steady and real in this moment of full and lasting clarity now.